When John was in the second grade, his mom told him that they would be moving to Oklahoma because she was pregnant and needed help from her mom. At first, John didn't think much of it because he was so young. But John's mom ended up going to Oklahoma to get settled and left him with his uncle to finish out second grade. Once John finished out second grade, his mom came back to get him to come back to Oklahoma. Once John started the third grade, he was so bad, he got into fights and almost got kicked out because he hated in Oklahoma. Once it came time to go to fourth grade, his teacher recommended him to get held back, so his mom held him back. From then on, John was an A student, and in seventh grade, his best friend knew he was a good athlete, and he recommended him to play football, so he did. The team he played for went to the championship. During that time, John's dad came to watch his son play for the first time. John scored 2 touchdowns and was the MVP. The following year, John played again, and his team went to the championship again. And like last year, his dad came to visit and root him on. This time, his team had barely won, but John didn't care because his dad was there and he was feeling great. But overall, John just wanted his dad to come and support him in basketball because that was his first and true love with sports. When John was a freshman, his dad didn't come to any of his football games, so once basketball came around, he was really looking forward to his dad coming to one of his games, especially since he was the only freshman that made JV, and it was a huge accomplishment. But playing on Friday nights, John's mom didn't like that because they were Seventh-day Adventists. Then that's when the question of moving back to Texas so John could continue to play popped up. Once John's mom told John's dad that they were possibly moving back, John's dad got super excited because he could go to his son's games. A couple of weeks passed and John got invited to go to a camp for basketball. During that week of camp, John's dad popped up out of nowhere to get him, and John didn't know. He didn't want to go with him at all. John ended up having to go with his dad, and during this time, John was being rude to his dad. The next day, John's dad took him home, and there were still hard feelings. Like 2 days later, John apologized, and his dad and him were back on the right foot. 2 weeks later, his dad called him at about 5 on a Saturday afternoon and told him to be ready at 9 in the morning to go school shopping. John had woke up at 8 so he could be ready by 9 when his mom texted him, "I gotta talk to you." About 20 minutes later, his mom and his uncle showed up on the porch and to tell him that his dad had passed away that morning at about 7 o'clock, to be exact. Immediately, John's heart dropped and he started crying because the last time that he had saw his dad, he was being a complete jerk. The day that he passed, John was crushed and needed someone to help him through things, so luckily his cousin Tim was there to support him. He even went to the funeral. He went to everything that John had asked him to go through. He was somebody that John could talk to, and he was basically like the rock and stone whenever John was down. John was hurting so much, he was unsure if he wanted to continue playing basketball or even do school. Now at every game, John wears his dad's shirt and warm-ups, just knowing that his dad would have wanted him to continue playing. John is currently living out his basketball journey in spite of his dad's death. And also, John got to meet his grandpa that he had never met before. So, in his dad's death brought him some great things out of it.